All right, all you sales and revenue leaders out there, get ready because today we're going to really dig into RevOps, short for revenue operations, and how it's going to be like the secret weapon for crazy growth in SaaS by 2025. And to help us break it all down, we've got Nova, our RevOps expert, here with us to like pull out some really awesome insights from this ultimate revenue operations guide for SaaS success in 2025.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me. And you're right, this guide, it's seriously packed with like practical stuff you can actually use. So we'll definitely make sure we highlight all the good stuff.
Okay, perfect. So let's get into it. So the guide kind of starts off by talking about, a problem that a lot of SaaS companies have, and that's like teams working in silos, right?
Mm.
Sales, marketing, and customer success, they're like operating on their own separate planets. Have you seen that a lot in your work?
Oh yeah, totally. It's like the classic story, you got marketing spending all this time and money getting these leads, but then they just kind of disappear because nobody told sales what to do with them, or sales and customer success are like speaking different languages. It's just a recipe for disaster, wasted time, wasted money.
And the guide actually like throws out a stat that really proves this point.
Hmm.
Companies with really strong RevOps, they grow revenue 19% faster, and they're 15% more profitable. Like that's a big difference.
Yeah, no, it really is huge. And I think it shows just how important it is to break down those walls and get everyone on the same page working towards the same goal, which is, making more money. And that's where RevOps comes in.
Okay, so for those who are maybe hearing this term for the first time, can you like give us a quick definition of RevOps?
Sure. So think of it like this. It's a way to get your people, your processes, your data, and all your tech working together across every part of your business that makes money. So sales, marketing, customer success, the whole shebang. And the goal is to create that seamless customer experience that everyone's talking about and get that predictable, scalable revenue growth that, we all want.
So it's not just about like buying some new software or, getting a fancy tool. It's really like a whole new way of thinking about how you make money.
That's exactly it. It's a total culture shift. Everyone's got to be working together, making decisions based on data, and always looking for ways to get better. And the guide actually uses HubSpot as an example. They've really gone all in on the RevOps philosophy, and you can see it in the way they've been growing and, being a leader in the market.
Cool. So the guide lays out a few key parts of a successful RevOps strategy. Like where should SaaS leaders, so, the people listening to this, really focus their energy?
Okay, so first things first. You got to tackle those silos head on. Like I said before, everyone needs to be on the same page. And the guide talks about Drift. They're a great example. They made huge improvements in how they hand off leads from marketing to sales. They just put a clear process in place and made sure everyone was using the same tech to manage it.
So it's interesting because they didn't just try to fix it with technology. They focused on the people and the process first, and then brought in the tech to help.
Exactly. You got it. Technology is awesome, don't get me wrong, but it can only do so much if you don't have the right foundation in place. You need both. And speaking of technology, the guide also goes into how important it is to have all your different systems talking to each other.
Yeah, because if your tools aren't communicating, it's kind of like you're right back where you started with those data silos we were talking about before.
Totally. You need to be able to see the entire customer journey from start to finish. And that means your CRM, your marketing automation platform, your customer success platform, all that stuff. It all has to be connected.
Now, the guide mentions a few like frameworks for RevOps, like Gartner, Clary, McLean, and the SaaS revenue framework. Does it actually like go into detail about each one?
It touches on them a little bit, but it really focuses more on the core elements that any good RevOps framework should have, people, processes, tools, and data. Those are like the building blocks.
Right, and each one is super important.
Yeah.
I mean, you could have the best tools in the world, but if your team isn't on the same page or your processes are all messed up, it's not going to work.
Yeah, exactly. It all comes down to execution in the end. And it's not just about like having the right people. It's also about having the right structure. Like usually there's a RevOps lead or maybe a CRO kind of running the show. And then under them you have like these specialized teams focusing on marketing ops, sales ops, and CSOps, and all that good stuff.
So you're like breaking down the silos even within the RevOps team itself.
Hmm.
That's pretty cool. Now, the guide also like really dives into the importance of data-driven decision making, right? Like you got to use data to make good decisions.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's like the guy says data is the fuel that makes RevOps go, but it's not just about like collecting a bunch of numbers. It's about actually using those numbers to figure out what's working, what's not, and then, making changes that will actually help you grow your revenue.
And this is where tools like Meet Record come in, right?
Hmm.
The guide mentioned them earlier, like a way to fill in those data gaps and get those insights.
Mm.
Can you talk a little bit more about like how Meet Record fits into the whole RevOps picture?
Yeah, Meat Record is a great example of what they call a revenue intelligence platform, and it can really like supercharge your RevOps strategy because it basically like listens to your customer conversations and pulls out all these valuable insights like what are their needs, what are their pain points, what's their buying behavior like, and then you can use that information to inform everything from your sales strategy to even like your product development.
Wow. So it's like you're getting a direct look into your customers' brains, which has got to be super valuable for making good decisions.
Exactly. And it's not just about gathering information. It can also help you like streamline your workflows, automate tasks, and even improve collaboration between teams. It's a really powerful tool for any SaaS business that's serious about RevOps.
Okay, so now the guide spends a lot of time talking about KPIs, which makes sense, right? You
Yeah.
can't improve what you don't measure, but it does throw out a lot of acronyms. So can we like break down some of the most important KPIs that SaaS leaders should be tracking?
Sure, no problem. Let's start with CAGR, that's customer acquisition cost, and it basically tells you how much it costs you to get a new customer. Obviously, you want to keep that number as low as possible while still, attracting good quality leads.
That makes sense. And then there's LTV, which is lifetime value,
Yeah.
that's looking at like the total revenue you expect to get from a customer over their entire time with your business.
Exactly. And a high LTV means your customers are sticking around and, keep paying you money, which is always a good sign for a SaaS business.
So it's like you want to maximize LTV while minimizing CAC. It's like a
Yeah.
balancing act. Okay. The guide also talks about NRR, that's net revenue retention.
Yeah, NRR is super important because it looks at how well you're keeping the customers you already have and getting them to spend more money, like upsells, cross sells, all that. It also takes into account churn, which is like how many customers are leaving a high NRR means you're not just getting new customers, but you're also growing the revenue you get from the ones you already have.
That's awesome.
Huh.
It's all about building those long-term relationships that actually make you money. Okay, now let's move on to some of the KPIs that are specifically for the sales process. The guide mentions pipeline generation, which I guess is how many deals are entering your pipeline.
Yeah, pipeline generation is a good way to see how effective your marketing and sales efforts are. A healthy pipeline means you have a steady flow of deals to work with.
Gotcha. And then you have CPL, that's cost per lead, which tells you how much you're spending to get each lead.
Right, and you want to keep a close eye on that number to make sure you're getting a good return on your marketing investment. It's not just about getting leads, it's about getting them in a way that makes sense financially.
And then there's CPO, that's cost per opportunity, which looks at the cost of getting those really good leads, the ones that are actually likely to become paying customers.
Exactly. CPO helps you see how good your lead qualification process is. Are you focusing on the right leads? And are you doing a good job of moving them through the sales funnel?
Okay, so we're getting into the nitty-gritty of the sales process here. Now, the guide also mentions win rate, which is pretty self-explanatory, I think.
Yeah, win rate tells you how many of your deals actually close. A low win rate could mean there are problems with your sales process, your pricing, or even like your product market fit. It's definitely something you want to track carefully.
For sure. And then we have a renewal rate, which is how many of your existing customers are renewing their contracts.
Renewal rate is all about customer happiness and loyalty. A high renewal rate means your customers are happy with your product and they see the value in sticking with you. It's like the lifeblood of recurring revenue in SaaS.
So it's not just about getting new customers, it's about keeping the ones you have happy and growing those relationships.
Exactly. Customer retention is super important in SaaS. And then we have sales velocity, which basically measures how quickly deals are moving through your pipeline.
So a faster sales velocity means you're closing deals faster and more efficiently, right?
Exactly. It's a good indicator of how efficient your sales process is and how effective your sales team is.
So we've talked about aligning teams and using data the right way and measuring performance with those KPIs. What's the main takeaway for our listeners who are like ready to jump into the world of RevOps?
I think the biggest thing the guide really wants to make clear is that RevOps isn't just for the big companies. It's not just for the Googles and the Amazons of the world. It can actually be even more important for smaller businesses, especially in SaaS.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How come, like, what makes it so critical for the little guys?
Well, think about it. Smaller companies usually have way less resources, and they can't really afford to make a lot of mistakes. Every dollar counts, and RevOps helps them get the most out of every dollar and every effort they make by streamlining those processes, getting everyone working together, and using data to make smarter decisions.
So it's kind of like leveling the playing field,
Yeah.
giving those smaller companies a chance to go toe-to-toe with the big dogs.
Exactly. It's about being agile and efficient and using data to drive everything you do, which is important for any company, no matter how big or small.
The guide also talks about some of those misconceptions about RevOps. What are some of the biggest myths you see out there?
Oh man, One of the biggest ones is that RevOps is just about technology. Like if you buy the right software, everything will magically fall into place. But it's so much more than that. Technology is a big part, don't get me wrong, but it's only one piece of the puzzle. RevOps is a total mindset shift. It's about getting your entire company focused on growing revenue.
Right? It's like creating this culture where everyone's collaborating and sharing data and always trying to improve.
Exactly. And another big myth is that RevOps is like too complicated or expensive to implement, but that's just not true. You can start small and scale up as you go.
Yeah.
Focus on the biggest problems first and build from there.
So it's about being strategic and prioritizing and finding the right tools and people to help you along the way. You don't have to do everything at once.
Nope, not at all. And the guide actually gives you a step-by-step plan for implementing RevOps, starting with figuring out your biggest challenges and what you want to achieve. It also talks about different platforms like Meet Record that can make the whole process easier and give you those valuable insights.
Yeah, speaking of Meet Record, I think it's worth mentioning again just how powerful a tool it can be for SaaS companies.
Right.
We talked about how it can listen to your customer conversations and pull out insights, but it can do so much more than that. It can help you identify those at-risk accounts, automate those follow-ups, and even coach your sales team to be better.
It's a seriously impressive platform that can really take your RevOps strategy to the next level, and the guide definitely encourages everyone listening to check out Meet Record and other platforms like it to see how they can help you grow faster.
Awesome. So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing you want our listeners to take away from this conversation?
If you're leading a SaaS company and you want to see predictable, scalable growth in 2025 and beyond, RevOps isn't just a nice-to-have anymore. It's a must-have. It's a fundamental change in how SaaS businesses need to operate, and the companies that embrace it are going to be the ones that succeed in the long run.
Very well said. So start exploring the resources out there, figure out your biggest challenges, and take that first step towards implementing RevOps in your company.
Don't wait. The future of SaaS growth is here, and it's powered by RevOps.
All right, that's a wrap on another awesome deep dive. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.